All right, so it seems that we are now live. Well, I hope we are live, actually. Thank you all for joining me today. This is the first time I'm setting this up in, quite a while. I've been using the live stream for my history channel, election history, but I haven't used it for a long time for this. So hopefully I'm going to get back to doing this and so on. So thank you all very much for joining me today. I'll be looking over here. It's been a while since I've done a live stream. Actually, I think the last live stream I did was for the Florida special election for the congressional district. So I figured, okay, let's go ahead and let's do a preview. I got to get the bugs out of this and all that. Get everything prepared for tomorrow. So we have an election day. Every year we have an election day. So what I figured we'd do today is just kind of go over some of the races that we've already talked about, as well as go over some of the races that I haven't talked about, because there are a lot of races out there that have implications, but I don't think that we're really talking about them. I think the New York mayor's race has just sucked all the oxygen out of the room, and that's fine. I mean, that's just how it is. And so today we're going to go ahead and look at what is happening throughout the US. So obviously there are not going to be elections everywhere. I haven't put down all the elections. Some of them I don't know as much. Like, even though I know Florida politics quite well, there's the mayoral race in Miami, which I don't know. I'm from Central Florida. I don't know anything about like south of Osceola County, like nothing. So we're going to go ahead, go over some of the elections and just what we should maybe watch for. But I actually do have some new statistics. So for those of you who are joining me today, I've been trying to get statistics for Pennsylvania. I kept on pressing on the button to get the statistics and nothing was coming up. Finally, it actually came up. So if you're a Democrat, I got some really, really good news for Pennsylvania. And you might be wondering, is there an election in Pennsylvania? Kind of. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. But before we start, we're going to start off with the New York mayor's race here. So we can see that Donald Trump has now endorsed Cuomo. And this is, I don't think this is unexpected. I think that everybody knew that this was going to happen with Cuomo, that Trump was going to endorse him. I just don't know. I think him endorsing Cuomo late, I think, is pretty telling. And what can we glean from this? What can we figure out from what's going on with Trump's endorsement? First, it might indicate that it's closer than we think, what the polls think in New York. And I say that because I figured if Cuomo had no chance that Trump wouldn't make an endorsement. The reason he's making an endorsement because he's trying to get people who would vote for Curtis Sliwa to go over to Cuomo. There's no doubt about that. The only question I have is Republicans have always hated Cuomo because he was the Democratic governor and they did not like him. They actually really have to all of a sudden see the enemy of my enemy as my friend. But I think a lot of New Yorkers are just kind of saying, if I don't like Mamdani, I still don't like Cuomo. So they're just both my enemies in this situation. And I think this is where it's not really going to pan out. And also Trump talking about how he was going to maybe defund New York if Mamdani was the mayor. I don't think New Yorkers would, even though he's a New Yorker, I think he's a New Yorker that don't know how New Yorkers act, right? I think that would piss off New Yorkers more than it would actually get them on your side. So how this endorsement works, I think it's very interesting that it is the last day. They must see something in polling or like it's some desperate attempt for Trump to get attention, which again, nothing new for Donald Trump. But we do see this happening and we'll see what happens in New York. There's no other real news coming out of New York right now. So yeah, I'll come back to this, keep an eye on it, see if there's anything that we need to talk about regarding New York. Now, I did want to mention really quickly the Virginia governor's race because we see right here Republicans lean on anti-trans rights ads in Virginia governor's race. And this was just published today. So that must be a late running ad. Trump did it before. They're okay. I can understand why the Republicans will use the anti-trans and other stuff like that as a campaign tactic. Okay, it works. But there comes a point where you kind of wonder if you're beating a dead horse. And I think when it comes to this issue now, it's not really sticking like it did maybe even a year ago. And I think because a year ago, the way in which the Democratic Party campaigned on this was very, very, very different. I think now the Democrats are kind of keeping an arm's length distance from it, saying, hey, we're going to focus on other issues right now. We're going to focus on basically Donald Trump destroying the Constitution, as well as literally destroying the White House, right? So I think that's what a lot of them are looking at. I just think that this is beating a dead horse and nothing's going to matter. Now, if you saw my video today, if you haven't seen it yet, go back and look at it. Sorry, I'm itching a lot today. Don't know why. There's seems like there's some sort of, even in November, we're getting a lot of like pollen in the air and stuff like that, oddly enough. If we looked at the statistics, when we looked at Virginia, we saw of those, and maybe I mentioned it in my video today, but maybe I can pull them up here with the Hill Emerson poll right here, because it's really interesting. And this is where, if I'm the Democrats, I'm very, very happy. And again, if you've seen this, sorry already, but I want to show people who might not have seen it. Of those who have already voted, we can see that of those that are undecided and everything like that, we can see Spanberger is winning 56.6% of those votes, of those who have already voted. Now, people are wondering, okay, does Jay Jones, the Attorney General candidate for the Democrats, see a big loss? Of those who have already voted, no, we're not seeing a big loss. If we go over to those here, which is the same statistic here, after the independent push, or after the undecideds are pushed to go one direction or whatever, it's 56%. So of those people who have voted, well, actually, they wouldn't be undecided in this, so I got to take that back. Of those people who have voted, 56.6% say, yeah, I voted for Spanberger. 56.0% say they voted for Jay Jones. This is exactly a straight ticket vote. So I do think that this looks really, really good in Virginia for the Democrats, maybe all the way down to ticket. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and go over to, this is because I've kind of been out of it for a while, to be honest with you. This is a website called State Navigate. And apparently they are able to get precinct level data in which they can create their own analyses. I'm one guy. I can't do that. I wish I could. That would be great. But in this situation, we can see that this is their projections of what we should expect in the Virginia House of Delegates. You can see, according to their projection, the Democrats are going to pick up 9 seats, which means, of course, the Republicans are going to lose 9 seats. And if this is the case, and if we go down here, we could see what could happen in the House of Delegates. What can it look like, right? 94% chance of the Democrats winning the chamber and a 12% chance of winning a supermajority. So according to their statistics, the Republicans only have a 6% chance of winning the actual chamber, and the percentage of Democrats getting a supermajority is actually higher than the chance of the Republicans winning the chamber. This is great news if you're the Democrats. If you can get a supermajority, that would be great. I think that's pushing it, but it definitely looks good. And as you can see, we're getting a lot of these seats. Some of these over by Roanoke, some of these in the Metro DC area as well. But you do get these around Virginia Beach, Norfolk, and so on, Williamsburg and everything, that are going to be the ones that are the swing districts. So tomorrow we're going to be looking at the Virginia races. We're going to be looking at a lot of these seats here, but it does look like, and this goes with my data that I have. Remember, I showed you in the Virginia video, which last Virginia video I really did yesterday, though I did talk about it today. We are at a position where the Democrats look to be dominating. And as I say, and you're not going to get it out of me, I'm not going to make a prediction. Okay, I'm just not going to make a prediction at all. But there are certain points where, like, okay, if the Republicans plan to win, they need to hit historic levels. Okay, if they plan to win. And I just don't see how they can hit these historic levels, especially those numbers that we got on New Jersey today. These are those New Jersey numbers. And the fact that the early ballots here in New Jersey are not the numbers that they need. Like I said, there needed to be, mail-in ballots had to be 1/3 of what the early ballots are. They're not there. The Democrats actually dominating in early in-person voting is a huge problem for the Republicans. So obviously the Republicans rely a lot on election day for things to happen, but we're now at a point where they really have to rely on election day for things to happen, rely in a historic sense. And I don't know if that's going to happen. All right, so this State Navigate also looked at the New Jersey General Assembly, and they say that the Democrats are going to lose one seat, which of course that means the Republicans will pick up one seat. We'll see what happens there. I obviously, because we see the Democrats have 51 seats to the Republicans 29 seats, there's no chance of the Democrats losing this chamber. But when it comes to Virginia, we see the Democrats possibly winning the chamber and winning it by a convincing margin as well. All right, with that being the case, let's go over to some of the other elections that I want to focus on. This is going to be a shorter video today, shorter stream. Obviously, tomorrow is the big stream with Election Day. The first one I want to talk about is the Pennsylvania Supreme Court election. So there are 3 Supreme Court justices, all Democrats, up for retention. It's just, do you want to retain this justice, yes or no? And you can see we have the 3 here, yes or no. We really haven't had any polling. I've been trying to find polling of how people were going to vote yes or no on this. There's nothing really there. But I got some really, really good news in Pennsylvania if you're a Democrat. Now let's go back to Pennsylvania 2024 and let's see what the early vote numbers were. Because remember, I told you I'm finally able to get some data when it comes to early voting in Pennsylvania for this election. Okay, so this is the early vote numbers in Pennsylvania. Now, all the numbers are considered mail-in ballots. So you don't see in person, because it's one of those places that even if you go to some place in person, you bring in your mail-in ballot and you submit it to them, like you hand it in. So as you can see here, the Democrats were at 55.7% of early vote composition. Okay. The Republicans were at 32.8%, and the independents and minor party voters were at 11.4%. And I said throughout, I mean, I did my video about Pennsylvania being a little worrisome. These numbers were not enough for the Democrats to win. Okay. It was always on the cusp that they just couldn't make it. They needed this number to be a lot higher. Well, in this election, it is a lot higher. So let me give you the numbers that we have right now for the Democrats. I can't show them to you because I had this set up for another setup, but then I have to reset it up again, so I can't show you. But I'll keep these numbers for 2024 so you have a comparison. The turnout composition of what we have currently in Pennsylvania, 66.7% of voters are Democratic voters who have turned out up to might have even been today. If not, it was yesterday. 66.7%. Republicans are 25.0%, and independents, minor party voters, are 8.3%. So we're all of a sudden seeing, whereas in 2024, we had what, 57 or 55.7%? We're now at 66.7% of the overall composition of that early vote being Democratic voters, and they're all going to vote yes to retain those judges. We're getting to a point in a lot of these elections that the Democrats just dominated in early voting, that there needs to be a huge historic tide the other way in order for the Republicans to even make it even. Again, can it happen? Yes, anything can happen. Is it likely to happen? No. So we do see that in this Pennsylvania race, we do see a significant, 66 points, I said 66.7, right? 2/3 of the voters, exactly 2/3 of the voters are Democrats so far. Now, again, election day is going to be different, but they're going to have a lot of ground to make up. Now, another election that I want to talk about that I think, because we're looking at the Mamdani race, we haven't really talked about is the Minneapolis mayor's race. So we do have, and you can see here, they do ranked choice voting. So that's going to be interesting to see how that works in the mayor's race. But overall, we do have a competitive race here. So we do have the incumbent mayor. Let me go. I brought up Wikipedia here with the recent polling as well. So I'll just put here, we have Jacob Frey, who is the incumbent mayor, running against state senator Omar Fattah. Now, Fattah did receive the endorsement of the DFL, the Democratic Party in Minnesota, but they went ahead and David Hogged him, if you know what I mean. So remember, David Hogg was elected as one of the vice chairs of the DNC. Then all of a sudden the establishment was like, no, his election wasn't fair, whatever, and they yanked him of that title, right? They essentially did the exact same thing to Fattah. So they went ahead and revoked the actual endorsement because the DFL screwed up on the way that they did the counting and they did everything. Like, they punished him because they screwed up. But then they went ahead and punished the Minneapolis DFL chapter and said that they couldn't hold a nominating convention or anything like that. So it was a big cluster. But at the end of the day, he was David Hogged. And I do believe that we'll see where Mamdani goes. But with Omar Fattah, it'll be interesting to see if he wins, because a lot of the other opponents, Dwayne Davis and J.S. Hampton, they basically said, hey, listen, we're not for Jacob Frey. If we're lower, if we're your first choice, then make sure that Omar Fattah is the second choice. So he does look to be in a good position. Now, we do have some polling that was done a few months ago. So in September, actually, technically, it's in August here. And let's go ahead and see what we have, because I think these polls that we have, and this is from PPP, I think these polls that we have kind of show a trend. Okay, I'm not a big fan of polls, but we can glean some information. So, for example, in September 2021, we can see that Frey's approval rating was -1. He was in the negatives. But as you can see now, it is significantly less. It's -19. Okay, so people have turned on the incumbent mayor in Minneapolis. Now, if we go to, I wonder if someone's watching my live stream and then they just popped into that one. So it's just funny that somebody pumped in right then. Okay, so if we look at May 2025, we can see that they polled the mayoral election in May. Then they did it again in August. You can see Fattah went up 14%, but, Frey increased as well because there was a lot of undecideds, and it seems like a lot of those undecideds are sorting more toward the progressive side. So this is it could really go either way, but I have this assumption if all these other voters are kind of going anti-Frey, then that helps Fattah at the end. Now, let's go ahead and look at the net positives or favorable and unfavorable. Jacob Fry here. And remember, there's a difference here. So this up here, this number that we saw is approval rating. That's saying, do you approve of the job that Mayor Jacob Fry has done as mayor? Yes or no? Whereas this is, do you view the candidate favorably, in a favorable light? Yes or no? And so on. So as you can see, the one who is favored the most is Fatah Omar at 36%, with Jacob Fry at 33%. Now, a lot of people with these other candidates, including Fatah, are kind of unknown, but Jacob Fry has a huge unfavorable rating of 51%. That gives him a net loss of, let's see here, of 18%. Omar Fatah is at 2%. So all the other ones are in favorable territory. Okay, Dwayne Davis at 24%, Jazz Hampton at 16%. But of course, a lot of people do not know who these people are. And this gives us an indication of why we might see that anybody but Fry movement, which is basically how they're campaigning right now, how that's going to go. So this is going to be an interesting race. And now if we look at Fatah's approval or favorability rating as of May and August, so just a few months, and now it'll be interesting to see. It could be totally different. You can see his favorability went up from 28 to 36. His unfavorables went up as well, but his people are getting to know him. And that's obvious because, he's running for mayor and he's a major candidate right now. So this election in Minneapolis is definitely one that we're going to watch tomorrow. This is one that we need to keep our eye on. Another one that might not be on your radar, but if you're a progressive and you want to say, where can the progressives go in this election? The progressives are really battling the mayor's race. And Katie Wilson here is running against Bruce Harrell, who is the incumbent mayor of Seattle. Now, she is a strong progressive, but she is an advocate for transportation as well. So as we can see down here, let me see if I can find it. She was the secretary and the co-founder of the Seattle Transit Riders Union. So she is, and I hate to go off Wikipedia here, but it is kind of the best source. She led activism campaigns for expanding public transportation access, minimum wage increases, and tenant protections across the Seattle area. So this is kind of a somewhat establishment versus a true progressive trying to come in with new ideas in Seattle. So this one might not be on your radar. It's one that I'm going to watch tomorrow as somebody who comes definitely from that Bernie wing of the Democratic Party. I want to see if the progressives can really win these mayor races, because to me, if here's the problem I have with Democrats. I didn't want to get into commentary, but here we are. A lot of them just stand for nothing except for being against Donald Trump, which is fine right now. We kind of need that. But it's going to be the mayors. It's going to be the, Omar Fatah, Zohran Mamdani, Katie Wilson. It's going to be the policies that they can institute at the city level that eventually we can look at and say, hey, they're successful. Now, some people are going to lie about them. Like people were like Bill Maher and other talks about how Mamdani supports free grocery stores. He never said that. That's a lie. That's a misinterpretation. He basically supports community grocery stores run by the city, very similar to a co-op. But there is misinformation out there, and it's up to, hopefully, if these progressives win, it will change that misinformation out there. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next one. So we're going to go to a few statewide ones, and this is the Georgia Public Service Commission election. Now, you might not have had this one on your radar as far as any election, but it is a statewide election in the state of Georgia. And on the Georgia Public Service Commission, there hasn't been a Democrat for a while. As a matter of fact, I think there was a Democrat in 2002. Then that Democrat lost, and then they switched parties to the Republican, and then they won it again. So it's been like over 20 years, I think, since there has been a Democrat on this commission. Of course, we know Georgia is much, much closer now than it was in the past. Now, I don't have any data or any information on this, but this is one that we'll want to see. Can the Democrats actually win statewide? Because with the exception of the U.S. Senate races, we really don't see the Democrats doing well statewide in the state of Georgia. Usually when it comes to those state races, the Republicans dominate. So we're going to watch this one, see if there's actually any movement in it or whatnot. But yeah, so I think we have 2 of these races going on, or maybe 3. So right now the commission has 5 people on it. It's 5-0 Republican. I don't know if we have 2 or if we have 3 in this, but we'll keep an eye on that. Oh, we got 2 right here, District 2 and District 3. So we'll see if that actually changes, because I don't know what other elections. I know the Atlanta mayoral election is there, and that might be good. If a lot of people are coming out to vote in the mayor's race in Atlanta, maybe they'll vote in this race for the Democrats. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. All right, what do we have next? Well, we do have Proposition 50, right? So the polling is showing that it looks really, really good right now. One thing that I just wanted to bring to people's attention, if they didn't know, and I just brought this up, to pass Prop 50 requires a simple majority. So you don't have this 60% threshold like you do in Florida, or you don't have a 67% threshold or whatever. You have a simple majority, means that Proposition 50 wins. And if people don't know, Proposition 50 is to redraw the maps for, to combat what Texas is doing by gerrymandering their maps. We've come to the point that, hey, Republicans, you want to play this game? This is where we're at. And if you didn't see, so Kyle Kulinski had a really, really good video today. I don't know if you saw it. If you did see it, I guess he went after, there's something going on with JD Vance and Charlie Kirk's wife. What's her name? I forget what her name is. I don't give a shit. Anyway, they basically seem like they're chum, if you know what I mean. Maybe do some DNA test on Charlie Kirk's kids. Anyway, yeah, so he went off on that, and the Republicans went after him. And Kyle Kulinski said, "Hey, listen, if you don't like me going after you, you're the assholes who started doing this." Yeah, okay, Erica, I see that. I don't remember. Like I said, I don't really care. So yeah, so watch his video. It's pretty interesting. Anyway, back to Proposition 50. The whole reason I said that is because the Republicans are gerrymandering Texas, and don't complain when the Democrats gerrymander California. And if you go to my videos, I already have a video where I gerrymandered California, that I got it to 0 Republican districts. So it can be done. Okay, so one thing, I'm just gonna show this because I don't have any statistics, but this was here. And as you can see right here, geez, the allergies are killing me today. As you can see right here, you can see of the ballots that have been returned, 24% of ballots that went out, 24% of Democratic ballots have been returned. 22% of Republican ballots have been returned, and 14% of independents. Now, this is from 2 days ago. I can't get the data. I can't get any updates on it, but the Democrats are going to turn out. We'll see if the Republicans turn out. Of course, the talk is that a lot of Republicans are going to turn out on Election Day. Of course, this helps where this could be a close election, but I think this really helps with California being a strongly Democratic state. And the polls are basically showing, I think I got the polls here in the next one. Nope, that's a different race. The polls are basically showing that the proposition is going to get over 50%. We'll see if that happens, but it does look good. Now, this is the one that, speaking of the devil, speaking of JD Vance, I wanted to bring up this Cincinnati mayor's race here. because this guy, Corey Bowman, is it seems like his only qualification to run for mayor is that he's the half brother of Vice President J.D. Vance. So, yeah, that might be interesting to watch. Let's see, what was the last election? Oh, yeah, the incumbent mayor just dominated that one. So it will be nice to see a Vance. I mean, I guess he's not a Vance, he's a half brother. It'll be nice to see a Vance adjacent candidate lose. So, yeah. All right. Here are some, I guess, just we'll look at a few of these before we go. Here are some of the polls. We see that they're Democratic. The only ones that we see in the red are the ones that are disapproval for Trump, or wrong track. But let's watch this. Let's watch this attorney general's race. Okay, so Qantas is another crap organization. Wow, this is really interesting because Qantas is another crap organization. Okay, and Trafalgar Group is a real crap organization. They now have a tie. So what I think's funny, okay, I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. I don't think a lot of these polling companies, these Trafalgar Groups, Insider Advantage, Qantas, okay, I think Emerson's fine. Roanoke's fine. What the organization the Washington Post goes through is fine. Suffolk is fine. VCU is fine. Let's see, and let's see some other ones as well. Roanoke, AARP, who I forget who they do it through. They're fine. I think a lot of these fly-by-night polling organizations make their goddamn numbers up. I think they make that shit up. They go ahead and get crosstabs, put them in, make that stuff up. Because I don't know if you remember, I actually received an email. I actually decided to reach out to one of the pollsters in the last election. I'm going to see if I can see who that was. I'm going to look at my old elections here. As I emailed them. And I asked them, and I forgot who it was, and I said, can you give me any, can you give me any information? Oh, SoCal Strategies. Okay. So I contacted the SoCal Strategies. I don't know if we can find them here. Let me see if I can find them. Okay, so we'll go here. So I contacted the SoCal Strategies and wanted to ask, I guess my email is kind of long, so I don't really want to go into it. My name is Dave Trotter. I'm a political consultant, hope, blah, blah, blah. I'm doing a video next Thursday about the inclusion of both SoCal Strategies and Qantas Insights, which is connected to the SoCal Strategies. Doing a video on that. Okay. So and I basically said, your company doesn't have any transparency regarding who these companies are. So let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about, unless they've changed it now. So About Us, maybe they've changed it now. No, they've not changed it. You do not know who owns this. Now, I think you can actually probably pull up their name. No, I tried to look up LLCs and companies in California. You cannot find these people. Okay, so there's nobody as far as who they are. Like, who's running this company? And so I go ahead and contact them. I say, I'm wondering about your company. You have nothing regarding your methodology. You have nothing regarding who owns your company, who is doing your data, how you do your data, or anything like that. But you're showing up on 538. You're showing up on, I don't think they were showing up on Real Clear Politics, but I'm like, you're showing up on 538. So I did. Okay, so I did contact them, but I know they contacted me back. Okay, so Mary L. Radcliffe. No. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Um, Hi Dave, I appreciate you reaching out after you uploaded a hit piece on SoCal strategies. You'll be thrilled to know that I thoroughly enjoyed your 51 minutes of bullshit addressing your major point. I operate SoCal Strategies as a sole proprietor, not an LLC. Due to unsavory opinions of me by many on Twitter, I'm currently staying anonymous. Okay, now he's still anonymous here. Okay, and he just goes off on like he didn't like what I said. Let's see what else he said. So then I go, okay, so you know, prove who you are, prove who you are, and he just didn't. He's like, I'm not. I don't want to give my name or anything like that out, and so I never did get his name. And this is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. I think a lot of these polling firms just make shit up because they hide behind this facade of we're a polling firm. You can't figure out who they are. You can't figure out their methodology. You can't figure out the way how they gather the data. You don't understand their weighing. I guess you do understand. Sorry, you do understand the weighing with Trafalgar, because Trafalgar says like they literally skew the data in their direction. And that's why I come to this is that Quantus Insights is connected to or have a at least strong working relationship to the SoCal Strategies. Okay. And Trafalgar is a shit poll that admits in their own work that their methodology is skewed. So let's see if I can find it. Okay, polling methodology. Here we go. I assume it's going to say the same thing as it did before. Okay. We have also pioneered methods to accommodate the social desirability bias. This allows us to obtain the poll's participants' true feelings in situations where we believe some individuals are not likely to reveal their actual preferences. Okay, once you start adding that, it no longer becomes a random sample. Okay, once you start adding that, you're picking and choosing how people think. And what is that social desirability bias? Is your argument that, oh, a lot of people like Donald Trump, but they just won't say it in the poll, so therefore we're going to go ahead and inflate the number for Donald Trump because we think that the socially undesirable answer is Republican. So therefore we're going to pump it up. Right? I mean, I don't believe that they actually say, hey, we fudge our polls and it's in our methodology as well. So this is the problem I have with polling firms. The problem I have with polling firms is I believe that probably about 50% of the ones that you see here probably fudge, well, maybe not 50%, maybe 35, 40, fudge their data. I think they actually create their own data because they are not transparent as to where their data comes from. Like no transparency whatsoever. But with that being the case, what I do think is funny, so you got to realize, what I do think is funny, let me just get back to that, is that you do have Quantus Insights now saying this race is tie, and you have Trafalgar Group saying it's tie. Let me go back to SoCal here, because most accurate pollsters of 20, they're really big into accuracy. Now, I've already said in polls that polls aren't meant to be accurate. They're not a predictor of the future. Okay, they're telling you about a situation now. So it's like me saying, today's Monday and it's raining, so therefore it will rain on Friday. Okay, they're not even related to one another. But people in this group, in this warped mindset of thinking that polls are predictive, they're really big into these, we were right. This is one of the reasons, and that I love that 538 has like fucked off and died. I love that 538 is absolutely gone. And honestly, I don't, even on Substack, I don't see Nate Silver as much as I did before. That whole seriously, that whole segment of polling and public opinion can just fuck off and die. Okay. But they're big into this. So what this tells me, they're trying to cover their ass. They know, and this is what I mentioned with the Atlas Intel poll today. You notice that they say it's only 1% and it's within the margin of error. And this essentially basically covers their ass so that if they get it wrong, they can say, oh, well, we were in the margin, within the margin of error. So it actually was good. So basically Jones can win by 2% and we'll be fine. Honestly, I don't know. Looking at those numbers I showed you earlier, these numbers right here and how Jay Jones is actually doing just as well as Abigail Spanberger and those who have already voted, it might not be close. I mean, it really might not be close. Again, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. We'll see what happens tomorrow. But yeah, and if you want to help out with the channel, you can give a super chat as well. Thank you all very much for all of you who have given super chat so far. It really promotes me to keep this channel going because I've been trying to, I'll admit, after the last election, it was kind of hard to go on. Okay. Not for me necessarily, but for a lot of people, because I would make videos and everything plummeted. A lot of people in the political space, everything plummeted. And a lot of other people just kind of kept on going and were able to recover. I'm not really doing it until just now. As many of you know, I've been working on other things. I have a regular job and, you know, I don't work in politics anymore. So I do this for fun. But I got my citizenship to Slovakia. Okay. And the next election, not tomorrow, but a year from now, I'll probably be doing this video in Europe. Okay. Because I'm going to be a dual citizen. Now it's funny because I'm going to be a dual citizen of Slovakia. You can see my little Slovak map here. And it's funny because people are asking me, and this is just a little personal stuff, so we're kind of off the election stuff. I think we've covered everything about the election. So if you're, you know, done with the election, then I guess you can dip out of here now. People were saying, oh, like someone said, oh, why are you going to the most white country in Europe or something like that? I'm like, first of all, look at me. Second of all, my family's from Slovakia. I'm only getting the citizenship because my great grandparents were actually from Slovakia and immigrated over here. So I qualified for citizenship by descent through that. So I'm actually really, really looking forward to it. And and other people say, oh, you're just going there. You want to move away from the United States. I've been wanting to move away from the United States for 30 years. This isn't a Trump thing. Ever since I went to London in 1997, and then I eventually went to Europe, mainland Europe in 1998, I didn't want to come back. I wanted to stay there. And so I've always had this interest of moving to Europe and staying in Europe. So, I'm still going to do, I've pretty much decided, I think we're going to have a good election night tomorrow across the board. And as somebody mentioned in one of the comments in one of my videos, with the special elections, and I've said up to now, special elections, take them for what they are because they don't have real high turnout rates. So take them for what they are. There comes a point that adding those special elections, when it comes to what we have with these election results, possibly tomorrow, something is going to happen. Okay. And with me, so the question becomes, after tomorrow, what's the plan? To me, the most important elections in the midterms are going to be, this was really the most important election 2 years ago or 3 years ago. We really have to make sure that the people who are elected are determined to have elections that keep the integrity of elections, because there are going to be so many positions out there up for election of people at, local supervisor of elections or county clerks who are in charge of elections, who can fudge the numbers there. Because if the elections, and somebody said, if we get rid of elections, because I'm still in the boat of, I don't think we'll have elections. Now, we might have the facade of an election, but if the votes don't represent the people who voted, then it's not an election, it's a selection. And I'm not necessarily sure that we are going to have that. I'm not necessarily sure if I mean, I am here, I guess, in Illinois, but I have a Republican clerk where I'm at. I'm not necessarily sure if I put in my ballot into the machine that it will somehow magically disappear. We have to watch for that. And this is why I say tomorrow, if all of a sudden Republicans are winning, then we have to call bullshit and we have to call voter fraud. Because looking at the numbers that I've been showing throughout my Nowcast models, I was really cautious in 2024. And you all know that. If you were watching me back then, you knew. And if you're on my Substack, which you can go ahead and I'm going to write in that eventually again, you all knew that I basically said, hey, I'm not liking what I'm seeing, but, Simon Rosenberg and others, and Bonnier must have the numbers, and I just don't know it. Again, my fault. I learned my lesson. I've not looked at any other data to determine what's happening this time. I never felt good. I felt good about about Wisconsin and Michigan. I'll admit that there's something wrong there, and I have to check out that model. But all the other states, every single one of them, I did not feel confident with. I feel extremely confident in the data that I'm seeing now, like over the moon confident. And if there is an issue, then I truly believe we're at a point where we have to start questioning the integrity of the elections. If we get to that point, I truly believe that these elections will be given to the Democrats, because at the end of the day, it doesn't really cost them anything. At the end of the day, the Republicans, it doesn't cost them. So the Democrats get win the gubernatorial race in Virginia. What's that lose the Republicans? Now, the question is that the Democrats take this big of a jump in the House of Delegates and they get the governor's mansion and the attorney general. Do they go ahead and do a little bit of gerrymandering themselves? Because honestly, Virginia is a place where you can do it. Now, I don't know the laws in Virginia, so I don't even know if that's possible, but food for thought, right? If the Democrats get this win that we are actually seeing. But overall, I mean, let's go back to New Jersey. Somebody just mentioned New Jersey. Don't worry about the New Jersey data. I mean, Republicans can't win with that number. No. Republicans cannot win losing the early ballots by 6.2% and not being, 3 times more than the mail-in ballots. So, yeah, I don't see how this ends well for the Republicans unless they do find some way. And yeah, Dominion now is owned by Republican super donors and the Republican Party, essentially. You got to worry about that. You got to worry about how these voting machines are going to be tampered. I don't even believe they allowed Dominion to be sold in that way. Okay. So yeah, this is a little bit worrying as far as where the future is going to go as far as this country. And this is why I did make my video about having an out plan, having an exit plan, right? And I tell people that, the people who got out before 1939 were the ones that survived. I still believe that. We're going down a dangerous road. We'll see how this goes. But until we've hit that point, we have to act like everything is normal and that the vote actually matters. We can't think the other way. Though having somebody elected to Congress in Arizona and refusing to seat them, okay, that's a worry. That should be, there's your first step in authoritarianism. Okay, so Diego Yanish, thank you for the super chat. I believe SCOTUS will get the Voting Rights Act around, allowing racial gerrymandering. This will happen, this will happen is a way that Republicans can win 19 representatives easily. Depends on where it is. Because I look at it this way: if you kind of got that in some of these Democratic states, you can make more Democratic seats as well. Okay. So you can do that. Like here in the state of Illinois, I think they could. There are three Republicans, and my dipshit congressman's one of those three Republicans, Mike Bost. That guy looks like Heinz Guderian. I mean, nothing worse than looking like a German Panzer general. Anyway, yeah, I think in Illinois they could reduce it down to two. But hey, it's up to the Democrats. Get rid of this. They go low, we go high bullshit. And I think Michelle Obama kind of regrets saying that. That's just, as a Chicagoan myself, that's just not what we say. No, they go low, we go fucking low. Okay. I mean, we had Mayor Daley, right? We go goddamn low. And that's what we need to do. If the Republicans are going to gerrymander the shit out of Texas, we gerrymander the shit out of California. Luckily for us, it's the largest state. And guess what? We can get rid of a lot of the places that gave us people like Kevin McCarthy and Devin Nunes. Remember him, right? We can get rid of those people. So I do think the Democrats are in a good position. We're almost at 51, or we are at 51 minutes here. So I'm going to end this now, but we will be looking at the election tomorrow. I feel good. I don't know what you all feel about it, but I do feel good. I do feel that the Democrats have I don't want to say this. I'm not making a prediction. I don't see how the Democrats, at least where I've seen the data, Pennsylvania now with the Supreme Court races there, the retention races, New Jersey and Virginia, I don't see how the Democrats don't have a really good night. I just don't see it. And I'm sure we'll get reports throughout the day to see how early voting is going in these states. So I'll be probably watching TV in those states to see what's happening. But yeah, so last thing before we go to the viewers who are here, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. If you know people who are interested in politics and in numbers crunching and all that, tell them to subscribe too. I'm really going to get back to making this channel what it was, because I think when the midterms come, the channel can grow yet again. And then when the presidential election comes, that channel really grows. Right now, whenever I make a video, it's not even getting out to all of my people who are subscribed. So right now, basically YouTube has said to me, screw you, we're not going to push out your videos as much. Some of you have been able to get it, and that's great. But if you know other people who want to see this kind of content, please, share it wherever. Share it on Facebook, share it on Blue Sky, share it on Elon's shit posting platform, share it on Reddit, share it wherever. It'd be great to have people on. So thank you all very much. We're going to go ahead and end today. So we're going to watch these elections. The one I'm really interested in are the mayoral elections. I'm really interested in New York City, Seattle, and Minneapolis. If those three all go progressive, comes a point where the Democrats have to open their eyes and see what a lot of voters want. And another thing with Mamdani, everyone's saying, it's New York, Mamdani is going to win. Not long ago, they had friggin' Michael Bloomberg. Okay. We're not talking about a poor socialist, city. We're talking about a place with a billionaire won 3 times as mayor. So please, enough with it's New York City. It's ultra liberal. That's why they're going to vote for Mamdani. No, maybe they're just going to vote for him because they think he's the better candidate. Kind of like they voted for Bloomberg because they thought he was the better one. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Have a great day wherever it is you are. And I will see you in the live stream